storm had blown itself ragged by the time our caravan rattled over the crooked bridge into Jameen, but it left the air smelling of iron and pine sap, and every slate roof beaded with trembling beads of rain. Townsfolk emerged, the way mushrooms push through loam after thunder, cautious yet eager, and by the river bank they found the scarlet wagon of Armand's royal perambulating marionette theater. Our man liked to call himself a royal artisan, though no crown in living memory had claimed him. He was tall, with hair so pale it looked powdered, and he wore a navy frock coat patched with velvet moons that winked in lamplight. To Germain, he brought wooden heroes and painted courtesans, scowling goblins and weeping saints. But the real marvel lay in the strings. Spinnerets of silver gears clicked inside the wagon, and from those gears spooled cords woven of human hair, honey blonde, coal black, ash brown, copper red, braided so finely you might mistake them for silk, until you touched them and felt unmistakable warmth. I was Ilara Millier then, apprentice to the master. My duties were hauling scenery, mending costumes, and though Armand would thrash me if I whispered it, collecting the hair. We offered a single copper for every hand's length, enough to buy a heel of bread. Most villagers lined up willingly. Others donated only a lock snipped from behind an ear while they slept. They seldom noticed until morning. Without living filament, Armand told me on my first night, months ago, a puppet is merely a picture, but anchor it to memory, and it breathes. He never explained how memories bled down the filament. He only whistled, and the marionettes fluttered like swallows. That afternoon in Germain, I set our modest stage on the green, lantern poles, a canvas backdrop of painted columns, and a setting sun. Benches made from apple crates. Children gathered wide-eyed. Their elders held one another's elbows, doubly wary and intrigued. Armand strode forth, arms spread. Tonight, he boomed, the tragedy of Prince Aldrich and the Swan Maiden. While he enticed the crowd, I ducked inside the wagon where the puppets hung in their cedar racks. Sable, the troupe's prima ballerina, met me with her dark glass eyes. "You smell of wet earth," she murmured. Her mouth, carved into a delicate O, did not move. The words vibrated down her filament straight into my skull. I flinched anyway. I always did. "Rain?" I whispered. "I remember rain," she said, and a boy bending to catch it on his tongue. My donor, perhaps. "Perhaps," I answered, unlatching her hook. Stray droplets on my sleeves dotted her lacquered shoulders like constellations. When I cradled her, a flicker of surprise, not my own, danced up the cord into my hands. Lately, Sable's borrowed memories were gaining strength, overlapping like out-of-Pergel prints. One moment she recalled milking goats, the next threading pearls for a wedding veil. Air from 2 donors tangled in her control bar. Armand claimed it gave her depth. It gave her turbulence. Outside, dusk bruised, the sky purple. I carried her onto the stage and looped her strings across the rigging. Then I waited in the wings, fingers on the crossbar, as Armand began. You cannot imagine the movement. Weighted point shoes glancing off timber, arms arcing slim as willow branches. Yet that night I felt drag in the strings as if Sable resisted each step, seeking another pattern. She whispered between lines. "I have been a swan," she said as she curtsied to the prince. "I have been a girl spinning under orchard blossoms." I swallowed and kept her to the script. If Armand sensed deviation, punishment would follow. The crowd applauded thunderously when Prince Aldrich lay dying, white feathers drifting over him. Backstage, Armand kissed the crown of Sable's carved head. "Exquisite," he declared. Sable's glassy stare never shifted, but I felt her tremor down our shared leash. That night, as rain tapped a lullaby on the wagon roof, I awoke to the hush of wooden feet. Sable stood at the foot of my cot, strings trailing like spider silk. No puppeteer held her. "Cut them," she breathed. Pleased. I bolted upright. "How are you moving?" "Memory moves me," she replied. The boy who tasted rain. He wanted running, not restraint. My heart hammered. Armand will burn us both. She lifted her hands, showing the filaments woven into wrists and shoulders, gleaming where moonlight slid through a cracked shutter. These are veins of strangers. Their longing bleeds into me. I cannot spend another night waiting on hooks. I stared, spellbound and terrified. Then a board squealed in the corridor. Sable went still, limp as a doll. Armand's lantern glow swept across her face. He saw me sitting, sweat pearled on my brow, but said only, "Ensure the caravan is ready by dawn, Ilara. We leave for the city of Hollowbridge." After he departed, I lifted Sable back to her rack. She did not speak again, but her silence rang louder than any plea. We journeyed 3 days along rutted roads, performing in hamlets for supper and coin. At each village, Armand purchased hair from those who could spare it. And from those who could not, he still contrived to take it. I saw a pattern. The greater the poverty, the more generous the donation. The theater blossomed on quiet desperation. On the 4th night, we camped beneath ragged firs. Smoke from our cook fire twisted into constellations, and Armand addressed us, human and puppet alike. In Hollowbridge, he said, "We shall unveil the Jotun, greatest marionette to ever tread a stage. Carved from oak and bound with 1,000 strands, he will tower 13 feet. The magistrates themselves will beg audience and shower us in gold. But first, his pale gaze pinned me. We require more hair, double what we have. Make ready." A shiver rolled through the racks. I do not claim puppets possess faces capable of fear, but every painted grin seemed to crack. Later, while Armand slept in the forewagon, I crept to the supply chest. Among shears and paint pots lay the spools, hair ropes, waiting to be knotted. I touched one. The shade of autumn wheat, still warm to my fingers. A flutter of images cascaded. Cider fermenting, a pet lark trilling inside a wicker cage, the heft of a scythe. I yanked my hand away. Behind me, a soft clack. Sable. She carried no lamp, yet caught every ember's glow upon her shellacked cheek. "Will you help us?" she asked. "I cannot even help myself," I whispered. "There are more of us every day," she said. "The soldier marionette dreams of his wife spooning soup. The fool dreams of a grandfather who carved whistles. We taste freedom like smoke, but cannot drink it." I gestured at the chest of spools. "Your freedom lies inside." Then words spilled without consent. When they separated me from my mother, they cut off my braid to mark the orphanage. I had not told anyone that memory in years. Sable listened like a priest. "There's a knife," she said, "inside the prop trunk, dulled on stage combat. Sharpen it, and you could sever everything that binds us." I imagined rows of limp puppets, cords pooling around their ankles, their limbs suddenly mute. What if the magic died with the strings? Would that be liberation or murder? "It must be your choice," Sable said. I slept poorly, dreaming of braids coiling round my throat. Hollowbridge swelled on the horizon, spires of soot-black stone, river barges venting steam, crowds thicker than any we'd seen. We pitched the great tent within the market square, crimson canvas flapping like a dragon's maw. Broadsheets proclaimed, "One night only, the colossal Jotun." The Jotun was monstrous, carved from storm-fallen oak, joints pegged with brass. His skull alone required its own crate. Armand and I spent the afternoon knotting the last skeins of hair into his control bar. Each tie felt like a nerve. By dusk, I trembled. Backstage before the premiere, Armand inspected my work. "Flawless," he pronounced. "Remember, Ilara, hands steady, heart iron." He left to greet dignitaries, aldermen in fox-trimmed cloaks, factory wives fanning themselves with lace. The tent filled, the orchestra tuned, lanterns flooded everything with molten gold. And hidden beneath the dais, tucked among sandbags, waited the dulled stage knife I'd sharpened against a whetstone while Armand drank his noon brandy. At curtain rise, I manned the Jotun's primary bar on an elevated catwalk. Sable took her place opposite me on a smaller rostrum. a protagonist in the tale of a titan who learns humility from a dancer. Her strings cross mine mid-air, a spiderweb of shimmering strands. The story unfolded. Gasps erupted when the Jotun first stood, towering above the crowd, shoulders broad as boats. Armand, stationed beside me, guided his colossal arms. Yet beneath my palms I felt Serge's memories of dozens, perhaps hundreds. Cobblers, nurses, pickpockets, chimney sweeps. Their lives coursed through Oak's sinew. The Jotun wasn't acting, he was remembering. In scene 2, he was meant to smash the painted city wall. Instead, he paused, fingers trembling. An ache traveled the cords into my wrists, longing for sunlight on laundry lines, for bread hot from ovens, for children's laughter not muffled by smoke. Beside me, Armand hissed, "What are you doing?" "Nothing," I stammered, but my hold on the bar lessened by hairbreadth. The Jotun's head swiveled, huge eyes settling upon the audience. The tent fell silent. Sable glided forward, light as a moth. Her voice rang clear, though no script granted her speech in this scene. "Great one," she said. "What do you remember?" A murmur rippled through benches. Armand yanked her line, jerking her to her knees. "Silence," he growled. But she rose again, ankles snapping into fifth position. "I remember too," she told the giant. "Voices that are not mine, roads I never walked. Are we not owed our own journeys?" A dozen puppets waiting in the wings began to stir without cue. The soldiers' varnished boots clacked. The fool's bells chimed. Wooden jaws cracked open, as if tasting air. Armand's face blanched. He whipped toward me. "Cut her line." He meant to banish Sable to dead weight, to leave her dangling. Instead, my hand found the hidden knife. In a single breath, I saw the choice. Remain servant, or honor every whisper I'd overheard on moonlit nights. I slashed Sable's main string. It parted with a faint whip-snap. For half a heartbeat she sagged, limbs slight. Then she stood unaided, straightening like a reed. Gasps became screams. Armand lunged, but the soldier puppet, freed by some internal will, swung his tin sword at Armand's shin, toppling him. Chaos erupted. Audience members stampeded toward exits. Lanterns rocked, sprang sparks. Up on the catwalk, the Jotun shuddered, half his cords still intact. He raised one colossal hand and pinched a strand between oak fingers, regarding it with sorrow. I was a baker. A bass voice resonated, not from his painted mouth, but through the tent poles themselves, vibrated down every filament, splinters showered. I slashed another cord, then another. Below, Sable danced among panicked dignitaries, guiding children to safe gaps in the canvas wall. Fire licked the roof cloth where a lantern had fallen. Smoke rolled downward, ancestor to the storm clouds that birthed us into Germain. Armand staggered through rubble toward me, wielding the stage pole like a spear. "You fool! They are property! No more than we are!" I cried, and cut the final master strand. A thunderclap erupted inside my skull as the Jotun's memories flooded out. The giant sagged, but did not collapse. He stepped forward himself, only himself, toward the tent wall. With one sweep of his arm, he tore the canvas wide. Night air rushed in, cold and cleansing. Puppets poured through the rent like exiled birds returning to sky. The fool vaulted onto a fruit cart, bellowing laughter that was partly his and partly the old grandfather's. The soldier lifted a stunned constable's helmet, inspecting it with curiosity. Even the smallest, a marionette baby used for lullaby scenes, crawled on spindled limbs toward cobblestones, string remnants trailing like umbilical cords. Armand stared, speechless. Sable climbed the Jotun's wooden palm and stood upon it, backlighted by constellations. Her voice rang free of any cord. "We remember you who gave hair. We thank you. Now we shall become ourselves." The Jotun carried her beyond the square and into the warren of streets. Freed marionettes followed, scattering. I never saw them again. Flames consumed half the tent before the bucket brigade arrived. Officials detained Armand amid blackened debris. They questioned me too, but the witnesses spoke of a miraculous awakening, not sabotage, and no charge quite fit. By dawn, I walked away unshackled, blistered hands wrapped in linen. I found Sable's severed strings in my satchel, knotted like dried river worms. I cast them into the river where they floated, catching sunrise, and slowly unraveled. Months have crawled by. Word drifts of a puppet baker serving rye bread to orphans in the low quarter, a painted fool preaching joy in factory lines, a wooden dancer seen at dawn on rooftops greeting pigeons. Some claim they are illusions, some claim witchcraft. I know better. As for me, I travel quieter roads now, scissors and small braid of my own hair tucked in my coat. When a village child begs a tale, I carve a figurine from kindling and fix a slender jute string empty of a magic. I tell them puppets should move only when you choose, and memories belong inside your skin. Yet every so often, under starlight, I feel a tug below my breastbone, as though a filament still binds me to a cedar rack somewhere. When that happens, I close my eyes and imagine Sable spinning on a bridge rail, no strings at all, balancing between water and wind. In that vision she bows to me, one dancer to another, and leaps into the moonlit dark,